First of all, it's nice to be here with you. Very happy to be in Thailand. This is the complete analog solution in the Discovery line of Kronos turntable. Discovery is the new flagship. And the word discovery, the name discovery comes from the word discovery, meaning basically that we feel that we've entered a new phase in the development of our product in resonance suppression and vibration isolation. And this translates in a more complete and immersive and less tiring musical experience. So what you have here is on top the Discovery turntable. I'm going to turn on the display so that you can see it. And underneath the Discovery turntable is the Discovery SCPS, which is the super capacitor power supply, which we first introduced for the Kronos Pro about 7 years ago, but this is a more recent, more advanced version of the super capacitor DC accumulator. This is the phono stage, the reference phono stage from Kronos with its dedicated power supply, and at the bottom is the power supply to the Discovery turntable and to the SCPS. So I say to both because there's two boards in it. The higher voltage boards can feed the SCPS, and if somebody doesn't have the optional SCPS, they still use this power supply but with a lower voltage version of the board. So this is the complete thing. On the turntable we have the Discovery RS tone arm, which is a 12-inch tone arm, unipivot, and with what we discovered on the Discovery turntable, we transferred some of the technology to the tone arm, and we have the RS's resonance suppressor, for which we have a patent application, and we also have a patent application on the head shell, the decoupled head shell of the tone arm. So this is basically the entire system. Well, you know, the high-end is a funny thing. There is no reason to go into the high end of audio. I mean, it's a very elusive and I would say almost abstract notion about what we feel is the ultimate sound and how close we can get to it. It's a little bit like in Formula One racing. Nobody needs to do it, but humans tend to want to achieve, to be on the edge of what is possible. And we do it because we can do it. We do it because this is our mission to do it. So other audio companies might be into doing lifestyle product, music in the home, just to have the pleasure of music in the home. But what we try to do is redefine what is possible in analog playback fidelity. This is what I wake up for every morning. And this is what decides what I'm going to do that day and where I'm going to be, who I'm going to be talking to, etc., etc. So it's really something that I'm completely obsessed and focused on. It's the mission of my life. So we had the Kronos Pro, which for years was considered the reference in the analog playback. The Kronos Pro was a limited edition series. We ran out of numbers. We almost fully sold out the Kronos Pro series, and it was time to do something else. And the discovery within the discovery has to do with the structure here of the turntable, which is new, which is a more advanced resonance control. And that was a discovery. The technology is basically what we call soft clamping. And this brought an engineering advance in this Discovery turntable. Oh, this is a difficult question. So our entry-level Kronos unit is the Sparta. It's a very good turntable, very nice. It has the counter rotation, same bearing as the Pro and as the Discovery. Similar DC drive technology. The difference between the three models really has to do with the amount of resonance control, vibration control, reduction of noise. So as you're going up the line, you have less and less noise, which translates into more and more dynamics in the music, less and less background noise, like even surface noise of the vinyl appears to be lower, because actually surface noise of the vinyl might be noise in the chassis that's picked up by the stylus. There's less of that, and you find out that the actual groove is extremely quiet, like to the level, let's say, of comparing it almost to digital, let's say. And so the difference really is about lower noise, higher dynamics, higher, better frequency response, better decay, more controlled decay, more resolution when the signal gets busy, easier to listen to symphonic music, let's say, with complex orchestras or big band. But I think from the Sparta to the Pro to the Discovery, there's an increase, but the Sparta is still a very strong performer. So the most difficult part really was to get to a point where we lower the noise floor without sacrificing the energy in the music. The idea is to preserve the maximum amount of energy in the music. And if you're successful, you find out that there's as much resolution and information in the bass and the very low bass as there is in the mid-range or the high frequencies. And this is very challenging to do, because you have to do many tests with materials, with assembly method, with design to get to that point. So we were a little bit lucky that there was COVID, because I was isolated for 3 years and I had a lot of time to put it back on the bench, listen to it more, make modification, and go from one subsystem to another to achieve the desired result, in effect. If direct drive was better than the belt drive, then I would be building a direct drive turntable. It would be very simple. That's what I would do. But on this unit, to mate the motor directly to the platter, even if there's a magnetic transfer, there's still a lot of vibration that goes on. What's the nice thing with a suspended belt-driven turntable is you can totally isolate the motor section from the plinth, tone arm, and platter section. And so you can have much quieter sound. Now, the belt drive traditional advantage was the precision of the wow and flutter, meaning having a very low number in the wow and the speed variation. In this turntable, we actually surpassed the direct drive SP10, for instance, just to name one. We have 0.0015 maximum wow, which is extremely low. Usually belt drive turntables are happy with 0.02, but we're at 0.0015, which is about 15 times less drift error than in what we had previously. I chose a 12-inch tone arm because it's the optimal solution, where you have the minimum tracking error with the with a low enough inertia that the tone arm responds rapidly to ups and downs, let's say if you have a warp or other things. So the tracking ability is improved, because low tracking error. If you go to a longer length, you don't really gain that much more precision, but you have a slower responding tone arm. So 12 inch is really unoptimal. If you're lower than 12 inch, the tracking error goes up quite rapidly. Okay, in this case, the SCPSD is different from a regular power supply in that, first of all, we use supercapacitors. Supercapacitors have like 10,000 times the amount of energy storage than a regular electrical electrolytic capacitor has per volume. So in this, we have two banks of 16 farads, not microfarads, not millifarads, two banks of 16 farads, which is absolutely huge. I mean, you could start a truck with this DC accumulator. So the reserve is very high and the impedance is very low, which is the best to control the motor and have the motor back EMF not interfere with the power supply. The second thing about the SCPSD is that we use two banks of capacitors, one being used as a battery while the other one's being charged, and then they switch and take over. So we have a virtual disconnect from the AC from the wall, which helps lower noise floor even deeper. The initial secret or invention was really the counter rotation. So in previous design turntables, if you had a suspended single platter turntable, there's some instability in the imaging because the torque force induced vibrations create a kind of like not a jitter, but something like this, and you have a little bit of a right-left instability, not a stable sound. And people preferred rigid turntables to avoid this issue. But with rigid turntables, you don't have isolation from the sound going from the speaker to the floor to the rack and then to the turntable, and what you have is bass cancellation. So this allows the first secret of Kronos counter rotation. It allows a fully suspended turntable to have a stable sound and a full frequency response. I think as a second answer to the question is what is the secret of our success is that we always put back on the table the decisions we've taken, the means by which we achieve the results, and try to constantly improve what we're doing. And I think in that sense, if your discipline is always to achieve a higher level, and you do this constantly over time, you achieve great results. And so I guess that would be the second part of our success story. I would say that it's fantastic that vinyl has had a resurgence. It's great because I feel that when people invest in a physical library of media, of records, they become more attached to the hobby of being an audiophile. I think that people in the past have fallen in love with their record collection. They've taken care of it, they've kept it over the years, and that gives them loyalty and stability in the involvement with the medium, which a dematerialized file system, like in digital, does not give you this feel of being a proprietor of your music in the same sense. Does not carry the same let's say, pride of ownership. I would say, though, a little bit sadly, what worries me in the resurgence of vinyl is the fact that many vinyls today are done based on digital files. I'm not talking about new recordings. We just listened to a beautiful recording, Serra de la Noche, which was recorded originally in 2496. And it's just a beautiful recording, a beautiful production. So I'm not anti this, but if you take Miles Davis and you use a PCM transfer file from the early 80s to make a vinyl, what you're basically getting is a CD on vinyl. And there's a vast majority of vinyl production today that is made that way. And in a way, it is cheating the new owner of vinyl from having the real thing. Now, there was just a debate about the mobile fidelity system, which starts from master tape, and then they digitize, they process, and they go back to analog. And this, to me, is a big mistake. I don't care how they dress it up. It's it's not honest, because they did not state from the start that this was their process. They were keeping that very secret. It might be a way for them to simplify the production process, but I feel it's the wrong way, especially when records are starting to sell $100, $200, $300 each. I think the customer should know what they're getting. So hopefully in the future, what would be great is if there was a sticker on the vinyl that would say made from analog source tape. And this would be a much better way for customers to know what they're buying. To buy Kind of Blue of Miles Davis in mono, but it is actually a PCM file, is really not a purist way to hear the full extent of the quality of the music that they recorded in 1959. The future of Kronos is that I really truly feel now that with Discovery we've achieved the pinnacle of what can be achieved in analog reproduction. Of course, we're going to continue trying to see if we can improve certain things, but I think the foundation within Discovery, if there's something that's improved later, it could be retrofittable. I think the structure itself is as far as I can imagine it going. So we're going to continue doing this. We have to look at the entry-level model, because this entry-level model has not been updated since 8 years, which is a compliment in the audio world in the sense that it's still a good seller, but it's considered a classic. But I think we could have an improvement there, but this would happen in the next 2 or 3 years, I think. Right now, the difficulty that all audio manufacturers have is actually getting things produced. Material costs have gone up tremendously. Labor costs have gone up. There's also a labor shortage. So it takes us longer to go through a production cycle. I think this is something that's happening globally. It's not only happening to us in Canada, it's happening in the United States, in Europe, everywhere in the world, in Asia. There's shortage of certain things like chips and increased costs. So yeah, so basically our aim now, I think we have pretty much the product line that we want. We are doing the phono stage. We're going to continue doing that. We might do a less expensive version of the phono stage for people who don't have quite the budget to spend on this extraordinary model, and but something that would still be very viable. And our vibration technology has brought up to develop the Kronos rack. We also have versions for regular equipment, so we've supplied that to some customers. It's not a product that we are actively marketing and developing, but it's available to our customers. So all these things are things we're going to continue doing. I think we got quite a ways to go with what we already have right now, and we're just happy to share it with all our friends all over the world. Oh, well, supercapacitors are sold by many suppliers. I think these ones are Japan-made that we have in there. But supercapacitors were initially used in Formula One racing for the electrical assist in the cars, you know. And so instead of carrying a big battery that would be, that they would charge, you know, and braking and whatever, and they could reuse the power, they've used supercapacitors because they have a very small volume, very lightweight, and very high power reserve. So we were the first company to use this technology in audio systems. Well, I love Thailand. It's a wonderful place, very hospitable. The people are very nice. There's a true love of music in Thailand. Thai people are very sensitive to music. They're very educated. in what they like about sound. They actively search for the better solution. So I just want to say thank you for your support. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your love of music. And we hope to come back to Thailand very often so we can see our friends on an ongoing basis.